Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Scenic View podcast. I'm Jonathan Owens, along with Artis Watkins, Executive Director of Scenic. Today, joining us is Nathan Foster, Healthcare Policy Specialist from the NC Justice Center, and Anthony Pope, a co-founder of Men of Southeast Raleigh, a community organization here in Raleigh, obviously. Yeah. And we're going to be discussing the proposed WakeMed Atrium merger. And both of these men were at the recent town hall event in Raleigh where both sides were represented.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Both sides showed up.
So we thought we'd have them on and kind of discuss a little bit of their perspective and add our perspective to it and, help inform our members.
Yeah, because if you're a state employee or a retiree listening and you think, okay, I live in Ashe County, why do I care if WakeMed and Atrium merge or whatever word of the week they want to use for this unholy alliance? It matters to every state employee and non-Medicare retiree because, as the state health plan has said, your costs under your state health plan would go up by more than $100 for every single state employee and non-Medicare retiree.
Absolutely.
If this merger happens, because as we've talked about many times, consolidation leads to higher prices always in this business. And that's what we would be looking at according to the experts at the state health plan. So it is a state employee retiree issue, but it's also a community issue. Absolutely. So this is one of those times where Scenic and representatives from the community writ large are trying to get together to make sure all of the information gets out there. So no matter where you live, if you're listening to this affects your bottom line. And by the way, even if you're not a state employee or non-Medicare retiree, your healthcare costs are dependent on stopping all this consolidation that's marching towards monopolization of the healthcare industry. We're so far down that path, I'm not sure if we can even turn around. But even if you're listening to this and you work for private industry far away from Raleigh, if you're in North Carolina, this affects you. And it's one of the reasons we stay number one costliest state in the nation for healthcare. So that's kind of setting the table for where the conversation will go.
And Raleigh is home to the largest amount of state employees in the state, obviously, because it is the head of state government. Well, Mr. Pope, why don't you start and tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're involved in this?
Absolutely. Good morning. My name is Anthony Pope. I'm a lifelong resident of Wake County, born and raised here, have lived here in this county for 68 plus years. I'm the co-founder of an organization, the Men of Southeast Raleigh, which is a grassroots community organization that came together about 5 years ago. And our sole purpose for coming together was to connect, collaborate, and partner with our community, particularly the Southeast Raleigh community, which is historically the Black community here in Raleigh. And so what we do is we advocate, we engage our community to make sure they're informed about issues that will impact our community more so than anything else because of where we're located. So we came together for that sole purpose, and we connect, collaborate, and make sure that we keep our community engaged, keep them informed. And so we are not a nonprofit. We're just a group of men who were born and raised in Southeast Raleigh. We started out with 2 men, and we now have about 80 men.
Wow.
And all we do is interact and engage our Southeast Raleigh community. It's not that we're not concerned about the entire Wake County, but a lot of the things that happen in Wake County, it affects us more so than anyone else because of being the historically Black community in Raleigh.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Like when DMV moved out.
Absolutely.
The headquarters moved out.
And I was on that commission as well for the planning of what was going to happen with that building.
Mr. Foster, so tell us a little bit about the Justice Center and why they're involved in this fight, I guess, first.
Absolutely. So the Justice Center works on a number of issues around fairness and economic opportunity for everybody in North Carolina. And specifically on healthcare, we really care about healthcare affordability because we know that it's one of the biggest costs that really everybody faces in their lives. The Justice Center has worked a lot on medical debt in the past. And in fact, that's one of the reasons why this takeover was so concerning to us, because Atrium was one of the most prolific sewers of people in North Carolina for medical debt. So
okay.
we actually worked with some community members in Charlotte who, this person who had a lien taken out on his home by Atrium and went on national news about that. And the liens were forgiven, within the week after he went on national news, but that was only 2 years ago.
Yeah. I'm shocked at that. No.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
You said sewers, and I was thinking of the other sewers. But anyway.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Pope, does WakeMed serve a lot of your community? I mean, is it the primary health care provider?
Absolutely. WakeMed is the primary healthcare facility for Southeast Raleigh. In fact, it's located in Southeast Raleigh, right off of Newbern Avenue. Prior to WakeMed, it was Wake Memorial, and that was a merger between St. Agnes Hospital, which was the only hospital in the city of Raleigh that served the Black community. In fact, prior to segregation or integration, this was where all of the Black babies were born, myself included. And so that's on the campus of St. Augustine's University.
Wow.
When the merger happened, it became Wake Memorial Hospital. And so that was a great merger because what it allowed us to do was to expand the healthcare services for residents of Southeast Raleigh. And so as a result of that merger was great because we got the same quality service that we had prior to integration. And it was just a seamless transition from St. Agnes to combine with Wake Memorial at that time.
Right.
So it is an extremely important asset to our community, and we are very concerned that if this takeover, I'm not even going to call it a merger. They've called it a merger. It's went from merger to partnership to this. As far as we're concerned, it's a takeover, and it's going to drastically impact the quality of services that we get now in Southeast Raleigh. So our residents more so are going to be affected more so than anyone else.
Yeah.
And, it's an interesting thing. I'm so glad you touched on the history of how WakeMed started. And, of course, the county, the taxpayers funded the hospital to begin with.
Yes.
They got it going. And they did so because it was a really important need.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was an important need not just to have the health care available, but to make that health care available for all.
And affordable.
And affordable, available for everybody. That if the richest person in Raleigh went in, that's a millionaire at the time, that would have been the richest person in Raleigh, and the poorest person in Raleigh, that they would receive the same care.
Absolutely.
Something now we take for granted that it should be that way. But WakeMed's now arguing, look, the county really doesn't have a role in this. The county is trying to say, the county commissioners, we don't really have a role in this. Yet they still do, even because, people say, well, since 1997, when the hospital went from being really a county hospital to being this independent nonprofit. But the taxpayers built this place.
Yes.
And so Wake County still kept representation on the board to a level that would indicate taxpayer interests would be looked after and that the community interests would be looked after.
Yeah, 100%.
But y'all are upset, it's my understanding, because that would kind of turn on its head in this new agreement.
Yes.
Yeah, it would. So the idea that WakeMed doesn't have this, connection to the county, I think is just wrong. The county appoints a majority of WakeMed's board right now, and there's provision in when WakeMed went from being a county hospital to being a private nonprofit that is sort of with the board appointed by the county. There is a provision in that said WakeMed can't change its articles of incorporation unless the county agrees to it. And that was exactly to prevent something like this. And so, people are saying, oh, well, this is just signing some papers. If Atrium could have done this without the county commission, they would have done it without the county commission. And the fact that they have to go through the county commission just shows that the county commission really does have power here.
Well, of course. I mean, they wouldn't have put it on the consent agenda at all when they tried to sneak it in on the consent agenda.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they have a role. Get it why they're trying to avoid it, because that's a lot of responsibility if you give away this hospital that's a big part of Raleigh's history and, frankly, a big part of what taxpayers build.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't want to be responsible for that as a politician either, but that's where we are. So this leads us to what's coming on Monday. Can y'all tell us what's coming Monday and what you think we should do?
So on Monday, there's, of course, the county commissioners' regular meeting. We intend to be present at that meeting. I've had the opportunity to speak with a couple of our county commissioners, and there are some that are for and some that are opposed to this takeover. And so we want them to understand that as elected officials of Wake County, what they need to do is vote in the best interest of the residents of Wake County. This county commissioners meeting on Monday is pretty much for us again to voice our concerns about this takeover, how it's going to impact our community, how it's going to impact our citizens. And the cost, of course, is a major concern. I think they tend to, when I say they, some of the board members tend to look at this as, this is going to be great for Wake County, and, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But the thing that we're concerned with mostly is how it's going to impact the quality of care, the costs, and how it's going to impact people that are currently employed by WakeMed Hospital.
And you didn't really get answers about that when you asked them.
No, it's still not clear. We've got some partial answers, but there's still a lot of unanswered questions that need to be addressed prior to this vote taking place in September, the early part of September. And so right now, that is our major concern, because as a community, we don't vote, but we have the opportunity to make sure that we stay on top of our commissioners to vote in the best interest of what the community wants. And right now, that's kind of split between board members, the county commissioner members. And so we don't like that. We want to make sure that we're present, to make sure that our voice is heard, even though we don't have the vote. But we have the power to make sure that as going forward, that these county commissioners are held accountable.
Now, Mr. Pope, we have asked our members to contact their county commissioner.
Yes.
Took them to the place on the website where you do that. A lot of people have attempted to do that with basically no response from almost every county commissioner.
Uh-huh.
Has that been your experience, or are you hearing back?
Because I live in the community, I see the county commissioners. I know a few of them personally, so I see them. And when I see them, I have the conversation with them. I've had some feedback in terms of people trying to reach out to the county commissioners and have not had the success of getting in touch with them. And so that is a concern to me, because you're saying, contact your county commissioners. We're open to hearing what you have to say. But the process of getting in contact with them is not as easy as it just picking up the phone.
At first I thought they had a really aggressive spam filter or something, and maybe they just weren't getting our emails, except there was one county commissioner who was always responding.
Yes.
And so that told me, this isn't about a spam filter. This is just about I can't hear you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so I understand that WakeMed and Atrium leaders have been meeting with commissioners in small groups to show them the contract, but not. Can you expand a little bit on that?
Yeah. So as Mr. Pope said, there's so much of this deal that is still in secret. They've basically released the absolute bare minimum that they need to release to get it through the commission, but every detail of this, even down to what Atrium's powers over WakeMed would be, is being kept secret as part of this deal, and it's being called competitive healthcare information. And if they showed it to a majority of the commission at once, that would be a public record, because it would be a meeting of the county commission. So they've been doing these groups of 3 out of 7 commissioners, and they've been showing it to them in a highly controlled environment where the CEO of Atrium flies in from Charlotte or Chicago or wherever he's coming from on his private jet, and they all sit down with the lawyers and in a very controlled environment show parts of the deal to 3 commissioners at a time. And they've done that with 6 of the commissioners, but they haven't shown the public.
Now explain why they would do it 3 commissioners at a time.
Well, if you do 4 commissioners, then it's a meeting of the county commission and you can submit a public records request.
Right. So the really continued. It was just such a chump move to put it on the consent agenda in the first place. What a weak
100%.
move, right?
Yes.
So they're continuing, however, instead of learning a lesson out of that and saying we're going to be transparent and accountable to the public, they're having meetings that are in small enough groups to keep the public from knowing what they're doing still. Yeah.
And I think these 6 commissioners who have seen the deal have signed non-disclosure agreements about it. And I think an important question for them is, you've had 5 hours to sit down with these papers. You haven't really had the opportunity to understand them properly. Do you really feel comfortable moving forward with this when your constituents don't know what you saw and you legally aren't even allowed to tell them?
A non-disclosure agreement to look at a contract that affects your constituents about a hospital that was made in the first place with the constituents' taxpayer money.
Right. Well, my understanding is this is a private agreement, so it's not necessarily privy to the public. But there again, these are elected officials that we put into office,
Right.
but yet and still we don't have access to all of the information. And yeah, when you meet in these small groups like that, it makes you wonder, well, what's going on in these small groups? Are they trying to influence just a majority or of the commissioners to get them in their corner? It's disheartening because as a community, we really need to know what's going on. And there's still a lot of questions that are not answered, and we don't know.
That's wild to me. It's just absolutely wild. So on Monday, which by the way, I kept saying Monday, August 17th,
17th, yes,
Mhm.
right.
is at 2:00, I think.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it's at 2, but that's when they're doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2:00, the Wake County Commissioners will have a public hearing that will last however long, right?
Everyone gets 3 minutes to speak. It depends on how many people show up.
3 minutes. Okay.
Mhm.
And then they probably won't vote on it, is my understanding, the Wake County Commissioners, on the 17th.
From my understanding, this vote has been delayed into September.
Mhm.
I don't know all the logistics of that. I had the opportunity at the previous county commissioners meeting a couple of weeks ago. I was one of the speakers, so I had the opportunity to express our concerns from the viewpoint of our community, in addition to Rob Stevens, who is also one of the men of Southeast Raleigh. So we expressed that, and there were several other people from the community as well that did speak. So from my understanding that this vote has been delayed to September. And I hope that is the case because when they had this closed door meeting with the county commissioners a few months ago, nobody was even aware that this meeting was taking place except the county commissioners and the people that are involved in this takeover process. So I'm hoping that as the information goes forth, that the public will be kept informed in terms of when this vote will take place. But we're going to kind of keep the pressure on no matter how long it takes, whether it's September, whether it's next week. The pressure's on now, and they know that.
Yeah.
They know that.
Well, you know the deal. They'll vote. They're not going to vote right after they hear from the public.
Absolutely.
They have to
Absolutely.
let some space happen and then just randomly vote one day.
Yes.
But okay, Nathan, you were talking about the small group meetings of the Wake County Commissioners so that they wouldn't be subject to the Public Records Act.
Mhm.
And this was the reason given for that was that it was competition, protect competitive information.
Yeah, so Atrium acts like a for-profit corporation. It pays its CEO $26 million a year. It's part of this conglomerate that's the third largest, quote-unquote nonprofit hospital system in the country across 6 states. But legally, Atrium is the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Hospital Authority, and it's a public body. And there's a law that uniquely protects these public hospital authorities from having to release this information to the public and protects them from public records requests. And so they're saying that because of that, the entire deal is competitive information, and I think we would understand if there's really, really specific numbers in there or like that would potentially be competitive information. But it's basic things. What are Atrium's powers over WakeMed? That's in the deal. Are prices going to go up? Are any service lines going to be cut? Are they going to do any kind of shenanigans with replacing nurses or outsourcing other hospital employees? We don't know any of these. We don't know if there's any guarantees. And the idea that we would be voting on this without the public knowing, or frankly, without the county commissioners knowing, because sitting down for 5 hours with you are on one side of the table and all of the hospital lawyers on the other side of the table, that's not an environment where you can really understand what's going on with, these hundreds of pages of deals. Like, it's crazy to move forward with that level of obscurity around what's actually being voted on.
And we've dealt with similar secrecy surrounding the state health plan and the third-party administrator contract.
With the hospitals, yeah.
It makes you think, like, if North Carolina is the most expensive healthcare state in the country, and we have all this secrecy, don't those go hand in hand? Like, is one causing the other? And
well, I mean, think about it. There's so many state employees in Wake County and all over the state, but their salary, if I'm a maintenance worker for a DOT yard, my salary is public information. And because people have a right to know what public employees are paid. But these contracts about the state health plan, those are with taxpayer dollars. One of the biggest taxpayer dollar contracts around is the state health plan. But we cannot see what we're paying these different hospitals right now. With the announcement the Board of Trustees of the health plan made about the 2028 changes, it would be access level provider reimbursement and then preferred provider for hospitals that have good quality and have given a fair and competitive rate to the health plan. They'll get preferred provider status. Now, the two that are fighting, trying to get access, but apparently not coming to the table willing to give a fair and reasonable enough deal for the health plan to be happy, the two loudest are Atrium and WakeMed.
Yeah. Ironic.
So what does that tell us, Nathan, do you think, about what Wake County citizens might be looking at price-wise?
Well, I mean, I think what you're saying about the secrecy of the prices is so important because the only thing we know about the difference between Atrium and WakeMed prices is from the state health plan. They said they pay Atrium between 15% and 40% more than WakeMed. Now, 15% of what, 40% of what, we don't know because this is all so secret. And, I don't think any of these prices should be secret. Like, I think the public should know all of these deals, whether it's with a public entity or a private entity. But yeah, I mean, I think it wasn't a surprise to anyone that Atrium was made a non-preferred provider because they're just so much more expensive than other providers. And I think we're maybe unwilling to come to the table. I think it is a little bit of a surprise that WakeMed was made a non-preferred provider as opposed to an access provider. And I think, I don't know what happened there. You do have to wonder if WakeMed has their eyes on this deal, and so that made them not really want to be, doing things in the here and now to make sure that they were accessible to state employees.
Right. So, Nathan, you're our expert in this podcast. Tell us a little bit about what happens when a large hospital swallows up a small hospital like WakeMed. What happens to prices just overall?
Yeah, so prices generally go up. There's data showing that they go up by between 6% and 17% when you have like a hospital from a different market coming in like this. And Atrium will say, well, we're not in Wake County right now, so really there's no consolidation happening. But that's just not true. These negotiations happen at the state level. And, Atrium has Charlotte, they have Winston-Salem. That if they also have the largest hospital in Wake County, they'll be able to go to the payers, aka us, or our insurance companies, and say, you have to deal with us because we're in all three of the biggest markets, and you're just going to have to charge more,
And that's kind of what they're doing with the state health plan, right?
It is, yeah.
That's exactly what they're doing.
I mean, Atrium having $10 billion in reserves and the state of North Carolina having $4.2 billion in reserves, to me, it is awfully, let's just say, gutsy to lord around wanting your privacy and expecting to get included in any deals that other providers who are giving good deals get to partake in. I mean, that is the absolute peak of arrogance.
Well, if you look at the salary of the CEO for Atrium, which is in excess of $25 million, and compare that to what the CEO of WakeMed makes, which is 10 times less, that in itself tells you the type of conglomerate healthcare system that they are. And so my concern and the concern of my community is that the people at the top for WakeMed and Atrium, certainly they're going to benefit more so than anybody else. Also, the concern is if healthcare costs increase, it's going to impact the Southeast Raleigh community and marginalized communities more so than anything else. But you have a lot of people that are moving, 66 people a day move into Wake County. And a lot of those are people that work in the tech industry that's associated with Research Triangle Park. They can afford it.
Yep.
People that are indigent, that are some people that are in a good majority of the folks that are live in Southeast Raleigh, they're going to be impacted by the fact that they no longer may have access to be able to go into WakeMed and get services that they need because they can't afford it.
Which is terrifying.
Which is terrifying. And then you look at Atrium's record. They've had liens against people's property. They've sued people that could not pay their bills. And what does that say about a healthcare company? We are not really concerned about, whether you can afford this or not. You owe us this amount of money. So until you pay us, we're going to put liens against your property. We're going to sue you. And so that in itself just really does not sit well with the community.
Well, I wanted to ask about that. So if WakeMed has said all along, the CEO of WakeMed has said, look, we wanted to choose, because what we're not talking about is the fact that there was another offer on the table,
Yes,
which was for more than twice as much, I think, from UNC Healthcare.
$5 billion instead of $2 billion.
Yeah, they said, we'll marry you.
That's right.
Since one of the board members of WakeMed called it a marriage. We'll marry you, and we've got more than twice as much to give. So, number one, that kind of makes me think this whole thing about we can't see the contract because that might mess with the competitiveness. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't think you got to worry about that. Somebody already offered more than twice as much. But in addition to that, the CEO of WakeMed saying, look, Atrium's the like-minded partner because they also started as a hospital with a mission to protect the community and to serve underserved areas in the community. With what Mr. Pope was just talking about in terms of some of the collection practices and stuff like that, those stories have been told all over the place about Atrium. So what does that signal for what WakeMed customers, how are they like-minded in terms of caring about the most vulnerable members of the community? I'm still missing that piece.
I just don't see it. I mean, Atrium did grow out of the Public Hospital Authority of Charlotte-Mecklenburg County, but they've grown into something that's so profoundly different than that. And even compared to other of these big private nonprofit hospital systems in North Carolina, and I'm not saying the other ones are great, Atrium stands out. Atrium stood out in terms of suing patients for medical debt. So between 2017 and 2022, 40% of all of those lawsuits were coming from Atrium in the entire state.
Wow.
They had more than 11,000 liens on people's homes, and they canceled those liens in 2024 because it was making national news and embarrassing them. And then they were like, look, we're so great. We canceled 11,000 liens. And it's like, dude, you had 11,000 liens on people's homes.
Right.
Like, who does that?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and then they had money given to them to alleviate some medical debt of some of their patients under Governor Cooper. Yeah. And I think that actually got extended one more time. My concern there was not, it's good if we can get rid of people's medical debt, but not if it just perpetuates a system that's going to put more people in further medical debt. And that's what concerned me about sort of throwing money at these hospitals to cover the debt incurred because of overpricing, basically.
It's good that we had the medical debt relief program, and it's really made a difference in a lot of people's lives. And also, the hospitals agreed to it in exchange for quite a bit of money from the state and from the Medicaid program. Right. And so it's sort of a mixed bag there.
Yeah.
Also, you got to look at the United States Department of Justice actually sued Atrium because of their anti-competitive marketing or whatever it is. They sued them because of that. It's clear this is not a marriage. This is actually a takeover. And what's going to happen, if you look at the board makeup, Atrium will have 6 board members out of the 14. So Wake County commissioners oversee the WakeMed board. But there's concerns that these 6 board members, once they're in place, they will have the opportunity to say, you know what, you're not in line with what we want to do, so we need to get you off the board. We're not
right, because they can remove them for cause, right?
Yeah.
Right. So how do you have 6 board members that can overrule 8 board members if they're in the minority? That is concern. Why would you give 6 people that type of power over our county, over our healthcare system?
Well, how did it happen in Charlotte?
Well, so I just want to follow up on that point about the board because it's so important. And the hospital executives have been saying, well, Wake County can still appoint 8 board members. And that's not really true. Right now, Wake County appoints 8 board members. Under this deal, the 8 board members would be nominated by the existing board. They would have to be nominated by at least 2 of the board members that, as Mr. Pope says, Atrium appoints. So Atrium would have a veto power over those nominations.
What?
And then the county commission gets to approve those nominations. So it's not appointment, it's approval. And it's even worse than that because the language says the county commission is not allowed to unreasonably delay their approval. They're not allowed to condition their approval. So if WakeMed is doing something wrong and the county commission says, we want you to stop that and we're not going to approve your board nominees, they're not allowed to do that. And if they don't approve somebody, the existing person in that seat can stay on past their term. So really everything possible has been done to make the county commission completely meaningless in this process.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And are these paid board seats?
I don't think they're paid, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow,
that is stunning.
Yeah.
That is. Yeah. Okay, so that's a complete takeover. Like you use the word takeover.
Yeah. It's what it is. It's a takeover. Yeah. And I think that our county commissioners, and I've had conversation with one of our commissioners concerning the makeup of this board. Yes, they do appoint, more or less approve through Atrium's designed that, hey, we want these X amount of people, certain people in place on the board. And it just doesn't sit well that you have 6 people that are being appointed by Atrium, but they can come in and they have authority over these other 8 board members. It's really a concern.
Nathan, how is it legal for the county commissioners to see the contract and have these meetings? How is that legal?
I'm not a lawyer, and I think that regardless of whether it's legal or not, it really shouldn't be the case that the county commissioners have to sign an NDA to see something that the public should be seeing. And I think Atrium has a lot of lawyers, and often that means that you know exactly how far to go up towards the line and how to sort of manipulate the process to keep things legal. But I think it's certainly not appropriate for these deals to be seen in this way that kind of sneaks around public meetings laws.
And have y'all found any, through the community organization efforts, found any county commissioners who you think are truly deeply concerned about the public in this? And you can shout them out here.
Absolutely, yeah.
Actually, I've had the opportunity to speak with one of the county commissioners who, right now, I think their position is that they are against this merger. I've had a conversation with them, and I think there are a couple of county commissioners that are kind of on the fence right now, and that's because of all the publicity surrounding this that the community has brought to the forefront. And so they really now have to think through this process. Is this something we really want to do? But I think there are a couple of county commissioners that are against the approval of this takeover, and there are some that are on the fence. I know of 2 that have made it clear that they are for the merger. And I really don't want to put names out there because I don't want anyone to really think that we're trying to undermine their efforts as county commissioners. But at the same time, I do want to remind them, you are elected officials by the residents of Wake County. You have a fiduciary obligation to speak and represent what we want. I know there are people out there on the other side of the fence that are for this, but at the same time, think about the community, particularly the commissioners that serve Southeast Raleigh. Think about our community and the makeup of our community and the percentage of folks that are probably indigent, some people that can't afford it, and then you think about the other parts of town where you have these high-tech, high-paid folks that are coming into the county, and they can afford it, but we can't.
Well, their names will be out there once they vote.
Absolutely, it will be.
And at that point, what happens?
Well, I think they're going to have to deal with the consequences because there's an election coming up. So we will, as citizens of Wake County, we will have the opportunity to vote them in or vote them out.
You kind of,
y'all are effective at it too.
Absolutely.
You wish that the commissioners or even the people of Raleigh could speak to someone in Asheville who has been through this with Mission and the problems that they're having there. Or, has there been any kind of outreach like that? Or is that, because I know there's a lot of people in the Asheville area who are not pleased with the hospitals.
Yeah, there have been people from the Charlotte community who have come and spoken at county commission meetings really powerfully about the way that Atrium, they got a lot of money to build affordable housing in the Brooklyn neighborhood of Charlotte, which was the historically Black community in sort of an urban renewal site, so an opportunity to fix some of those mistakes. And then instead of building affordable housing, they're building luxury housing, but they're keeping the public money, of course. And so there's a big fight in Charlotte right now about that. And in fact, the Charlotte-Mecklenburg County Commission decided that they didn't want to approve Atrium's board slate because Atrium hasn't been acting right by the community. And so for the first time since anyone can remember, this year, the county commission said, hey, usually just Atrium presents the board slate and the county commission approves it. They said, hey, we're not approving this. We want more community representation. We don't want it to all be business people who care about mergers and acquisitions. We want some people who actually represent the community. And what Atrium said was, we don't care. Our existing board members are just going to stay in their seats past the end of their term, and we have more lawyers than you.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a gentleman at the last county commissioners, the press conference prior to the commissioners meeting, and he actually spoke at the commissioners meeting as well, that pretty much gave us the inside scoop of once Atrium got into position as county commissioners, once they got in position in terms of their board members that were appointed, they were able to say to the other board members, just as Nathan mentioned, we have more lawyers than you. So if you think you can take us on, well, bring it on. And that seems to be the mentality. And that really concerns me because it just opens the door to saying we're going to do whatever we want. Once we're into a position, we're going to do what we want, regardless of what you say, and you can't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if is that the kind of view that you get, Nathan?
Yeah, absolutely. That certainly seems to be how they act towards people.
Well, I mean, you should have a deep bench of lawyers if you're a nonprofit hospital in this day and time, because I was stunned to see this. And since you do a lot of research about this stuff, Nathan, nonprofit hospital investments have grown 57% from 2010 to 2023, and they now reach $296 billion. Nonprofit hospitals.
Right.
290
nonprofit in quotes, right?
Right. So I would guess so. I mean, with that kind of money, yeah, you got all the
Absolutely.
lawyers, you got all the lobbyists.
Right.
And I wanna put in a good word for WakeMed here as it currently exists, because WakeMed, I think the CEO of WakeMed is looking at Atrium and saying, well, I want that money. But
Right.
what WakeMed is now is a hospital that is one of the most affordable hospitals in North Carolina, and it is also one of the best hospitals in North Carolina. There was a recent ranking called this group called the Lown Institute ranks hospitals on social responsibility and quality of care. WakeMed was the best in North Carolina, and I think it just goes to show that if you have these community roots, if you have, I think the public control through the county commission is so important here, because it keeps WakeMed aligned with what the community wants and needs. If you have that, you can provide, frankly, better care and better service to the community while taking less money out of the community. And that's what we're trying to preserve by keeping WakeMed independent.
Yeah. I mean, and if you're having to listen to the boardroom more than the community, of course things are going to go sideways, And I think that's what the fear is here. WakeMed really is respected. The problem with any of this in the healthcare industry is that all the money, that's not going to doctors and nurses.
No.
When we think of our hospitals, we always think of the people that help us. Doctors, nurses, people that keep the rooms clean, people that keep the dining services going so that we can go grab a bite while we're waiting with a loved one while they're sick. There's so many pieces to running a hospital, but the folks who do that actual work, they're not getting enriched. They're not making big salaries, even the doctors.
No.
Yeah. That was a community meeting that was held at John Chavis Memorial Park in Southeast Raleigh, and the CEO of WakeMed was there. And so we had the opportunity, which was this all came about as a result of this closed door meeting that the public had no knowledge of. And so at that meeting, had the opportunity to speak to the CEO of WakeMed. I was really concerned because he was telling me that, I came from a community just like Southeast Raleigh. And so when he said it, I thought he was saying that he lived or he was born in Southeast Raleigh. And I was like, oh, yeah, what high school did you go to? He said, no, from my community. I said, so you're saying that your community has the type of makeup that we have here in Southeast Raleigh? He said, yeah, my community was similar. I said, I don't know. But anyway, nonetheless, it concerned me. And I think you're right when it is going to benefit those at the top more so than the people that are on the front lines doing the work every day. It just doesn't set well. And I think that when you're talking about money, it's usually the top tier that normally reaps the benefits of a type of takeover.
I want to throw money at the ones that save our lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't make $26 million by providing a good service.
Absolutely.
People well.
Right.
And I think that makes fights like the one we're having with the state health plan and this one hard. That people really do trust their hospitals and they love their hospitals and they want to go to the same hospital, but they don't see the other issues, the larger issues about
that there is no end to it.
Yeah.
You can give them, we've got members right now saying, we want Atrium to have access level or preferred provider level. Give them whatever it is they want.
Right.
But if you give them that, guess what?
You're giving up a lot more.
Yeah, they want a lot more the next year.
Absolutely.
And also taxes would have to go up.
Yeah.
So those same people would tell you, absolutely not, do not raise my taxes. But if you
or
keep
your
writing,
premiums will go up.
right.
Oh, yeah.
So if you keep writing blank checks, somebody's paying for it.
Yeah.
And like we said before, I think the hospital executives know that.
Oh, yeah.
That
100%.
they have that
The fear factor.
in their back pocket.
Mhm.
Another concern for me is that mental health has become a major thing, not only in North Carolina, just throughout the country. And so you have a lot more people that are dealing with mental health issues. And so I haven't heard any conversation around how will the hospital address this. When they closed Dorothy Dix many years ago, there were a lot of people that were
Left in the
receiving
lurch.
services.
Yeah.
And so they were kind of put out there. So now you have this growing trend of people, young people. I see it driving through my community. Young people that are just out in the streets and their mental health is just out of control.
It's epidemic.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So how is this takeover going to address this issue of mental health, which is really a major thing in our communities now?
So WakeMed has this podcast. They said it's a short run podcast just around the issue of the merger,
Mhm.
which I only happened upon that the other day and I was fascinated. So I've listened. And one of the executives from Advocate Health that
Mhm.
owns Atrium brought up mental health as being one of the things that would be a benefit to the merger, but then he doesn't. I mean, I listened to his portion on that several times and could never hear why. Like he said it would help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I did not hear the why. Have y'all heard anything about it? Because that to me would be important if true.
I haven't heard a lot, but I know
Yeah.
that is a concern.
Yeah, if you can't explain to me how it would help.
Yeah.
Well, I think to be fair to their argument, they're saying that Atrium is going to come in and invest money in WakeMed, and then WakeMed will be able to expand services. And I think one of the things that they're saying is that they're going to expand mental health services, but as far as we know, this isn't guaranteed, and in fact, there's no guarantee that they'll even maintain existing service lines. Like that's another thing that often happens in mergers is the hospital will come in and it'll shut down unprofitable service lines. So, I think the argument is being made that will expand, but there's no guarantee, or if there is a guarantee, it's in this secret document, and there's no guarantee to maintain either.
Has that been the case in Charlotte? Do they have significantly better mental health services through Atrium in Charlotte than we're seeing at other hospitals? Because I think of Charlotte as having a fairly significant mental health crisis, like so many urban areas, particularly where there's more people in North Carolina and in the country. And those have borne out very publicly in the last year.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So have you heard anything about there being particularly more mental health services?
I have not, no, but I don't know exactly like how Atrium's mental health services are in Charlotte.
Right. I haven't heard either,
Yeah.
No,
which makes
either,
me
no.
wonder, like, so upon which evidence are we making this leap in logic I'm just curious because, again, I do think, Mr. Pope, you bringing that up, it would be a really fundamental point,
Really.
but nobody's offering any evidence to base it against
Right.
or any promises to base it against that anyone has seen.
Yeah. And that's unfortunate because there again, your marginalized communities are the ones that's going to be impacted more so if the services are not there. Holly Hill is just overrun by people with mental health issues.
Yeah.
And it's a revolving door. These folks come in because they're trying to get out of the rain. They got all kind of reasons for coming in, but their mental health issue is really a concern. So what are we going to do about that? And that is something that Atrium needs to, at least put out there. What are your plans for that?
Yeah.
I'm just so done with all of this stuff about, we're really concerned about getting the input from the community. I've been on a number of projects that are happening in Southeast Raleigh. And so one thing that I've made it clear, if this is one of those things that you've already made a decision, but you're just going to have the community meeting or whatever to check the box to say, oh, yeah, we met with the community and we got their input. I've seen it happen too many times. And so I've refused to be on certain projects where they say, we want the community input because I know the decision is made. And that's normally what happens in my community in Southeast Raleigh. Decisions are made. It's already a done deal. Now we're going to bring it to the community so that we can say we had these community meetings and you had the opportunity to speak up, but you didn't say anything. because the decision, and people are getting discouraged about that. And so I would like to see that there are more community meetings, but on a larger scale, which is one reason we kind of organized this town hall
That
meeting.
was great.
Yeah.
Because, and we had a larger place, we probably would have a lot more people there speaking out on this. But it's just always my community. And when I say my community, Southeast Raleigh, that seems to be left out of the decision making. And we're going to do what we want to, but we're going to listen to you over here on the side. Tell us what you like. And we'll check the box and say, we met with you.
Yes.
And it just bothers me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It should.
Well, let's talk about a little bit in closing the meeting on Monday, just the logistics and, what we can do. The meeting will be in the Wake County Justice Center at 2 p.m. on the second floor. It says here you have to submit online your request to do public comments. Is that the same for this hearing as well, or?
Yes.
Okay.
That is, yeah.
And the link will be posted the morning of the meeting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
It opens at 9 a.m. and then it's open until the start of the meeting. So you
Okay.
want to sign up as close to 9 a.m. as possible, but as long as you sign up before the meeting starts, you're good.
and we'll share that link on our Facebook
Yes,
page
please
to
do.
get people out to the meeting. And do you expect a big crowd? Is a lot of your
Absolutely.
group going?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. We've already put it out there. In fact, we had a meeting on Sunday, and I informed my men, we need you there. We need you in your attire. We need you to be visible.
Mhm.
I think there's going to be quite a few folks there because we're getting to a point now where we realize the commissioners, they're listening. They're hearing now. Whatever the decision makes, that's a totally different thing. But we're voicing our opinion, and we have an audience now, so we need you to really be out there and push it. So I'm saying to as many people as can, doesn't matter what organization, what agency, come out
Mhm.
and voice your concerns and be present so that people will see this is not something that only a handful of people are concerned with. There's a whole community that really is against this merger
Yeah.
or this takeover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything else we want to discuss or any? No,
Come
we've
to the meeting.
we've exhausted it, huh?
State
Please.
employees and retirees in Wake County, please get to that meeting on Monday
Uh-huh.
at the Wake County Justice Center at 2 o'clock. Sign up at 9 a.m. online to speak because I know y'all have some stuff to say about this, especially when well over $100 is coming out of your pocket
Yeah.
just because the merger goes through,
Absolutely.
according to the state health plan. So don't forget that. This would cost you money
That's right.
and do God knows what to your services. So
And
let's show
and even
up.
more than that, if you ever have to use Atrium when it does take
Right.
over WakeMed. So
And there will be, so we'll have signs available for
Okay.
people if they would like to, go in the meeting with signs. We won't be able to hold them up, but we can at least march in the meeting. So please, let's pack the courthouse. Let's pack the Justice Center so that people can know that there's more than just a handful of people that are concerned about this. There's a whole community.
Oh, there is.
Mhm.
This
Yes, it
not-
is. And there's a lot of organizations that are in opposition to this takeover.
okay.
And so,
Well, thank you both, and
Absolutely.
you're welcome to come back to be on our podcast anytime. We'd love to talk more about healthcare with you, Nathan. Because
Yeah, absolutely.
we were talking before the podcast. We had a lot to talk about, so maybe we
Yeah.
can get you back on to talk
Healthcare
about
policy. Whew.
it.
thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much.